Hello, friends. Today we're going to be reading chapters 1 and 2 of our new book, Fudge Chp, written by Judy Blume. Our first vocabulary word is anticipation. What's the word? Good. Anticipation is a noun that means a good feeling of hope about what might happen. You might feel anticipation when you're expecting the birth of a new brother or sister, or if you're like me at the beginning of the school year when you're going to meet your teacher for the first time, or I'm going to meet my students for the first time. So the word is anticipation. What's the word? Good. The second word is relax. Relax is a verb that means to become calmer or less tense. Sorry, let's say the word. What's the word? Relax. Good. So you have to relax your muscles if you're getting tense, like maybe after a night of sports or sitting in front of your computer all day long. So look for relax and anticipation in today's reading. Our author, Judy Blume, is going to create some anticipation in these first two chapters. So look for things that make us think ahead and be excited to read further. What does she hint about, but not really say yet? So the book is Fudge Chp by Judy Blume. Make sure you have your book ready. The pages that you're going to see on the screen might differ a little bit from the pages in your book. So I'll give you the page numbers as we read. I am going to read the first 3 pages at a slower pace, and then I'm going to speed up. So you read along with me for as long as you can. This is page 3 in our book. Chapter 1, Who's the Lucky Bride? Guess what, Pete? My brother Fudge said. I'm getting married tomorrow. I looked up from my baseball cards. Isn't this kind of sudden? I asked, since Fudge is only 5. No, he said. Well, who's the lucky bride? Sheila Tubman, Fudge said. I hit the floor, pretending to have fainted dead away. I did a good job of it because Fudge started shaking me and shouting, Get up, Pete. What's with this Pete business? I thought. Ever since he could talk, he's called me Peta. Then Tootsie, my sister, who's just a year and a half, danced around me singing, Up, Pete, up. If you're looking in your book, you're going to turn to page 4 now. At the top of page 4 in your book, it starts, Next, Mom was beside me saying, Peter, what happened? Are you all right? I told him I was getting married, Fudge said, and he just fell over. I fell over when you told me who you were marrying, I said. Who are you marrying, Fudge? Mom asked, as if we were seriously discussing his wedding. Sheila Tubman, Fudge said. Don't say that name around me, I told him, or I'll faint again. Speaking of Sheila Tubman, Mom began, but I didn't wait for her to finish. You're making me feel very sick, I warned. Really, Peter, Mom said. Aren't you overdoing it? I clutched my stomach and moaned, but Mom went right on talking. Buzz Tubman is the one who told us about the house in Maine. So I'm going to stop here for a minute and make an inference. An inference is when we take clues that the author has given us and put them together with things we already know to come up with some ideas of our own. If I put some facts together, I can figure out who Buzz Tubman is. Even though the author doesn't tell us who Buzz Tubman is. First, I'm thinking that Sheila Tubman is a kid. Buzz Tubman has the same name, so they could be in the same family. Buzz knows about vacations, so she must be an adult. I think Buzz Tubman is Sheila Tubman's mother. That's my guess. M-A-I-N-E spells Maine, Fudge sang. Mom looked at him, but didn't even pause. And this house is right next to the place they've rented for their vacation, she told me. I'm missing something here, I said. What house? What vacation? Remember, we decided to go away for a few weeks in August? Now I'm at the top of page 5, the word yeah. Yeah, so? So we got a great deal on a house in Maine. And the Tubmans are going to be next door? I couldn't believe this. Sheila Tubman next door for 2 whole weeks? 3, Mom said. I fell back flat on the floor. He did it again, Mom, Fudge said. He's just pretending, Mom told Fudge. He's just being very silly. So I don't have to marry Sheila tomorrow, Fudge said. I'll marry her in Maine. That makes more sense, Mom said. In Maine, you can have a nice wedding under the trees. Under the trees, Fudge said. Tease, Tootsie said, throwing a handful of gummy bears in my face. And that's how it all began. Now we're at the beginning of chapter 2 in your book. That is page 6. Chapter 2 is Pete and Farley. That night we went to Tico Taco for supper. I wasn't very hungry. The idea of spending 3 weeks next door to Sheila Tubman was enough to take away my appetite. I wished the Tubmans would move to another planet, but until that happens, there's no way to avoid Sheila. She lives in our apartment building. We go to the same school. I kind of groaned, and Dad looked at me. What is it, Peter? Sheila Tubman, I said. What about her? Dad asked. We're getting married, Fudge said, his mouth full of chicken and taco shell. Now I'm at the top of page 7 in your book. I'm not talking about your wedding, I said. I'm talking about spending 3 weeks in Maine next door to the Tubmans. It won't be as bad as you think, Mom said. You don't know how bad I think it will be. Sheila's older now. She's finished 6th grade, same as you. What's age got to do with it? I said. She'll still be the queen of cooties. I'm going to stop again for a second and make a connection here. I'm going to take some information from the text and some things that I already know. Peter calls Sheila the queen of cooties. I know that cooties are not real things, but kids used to say that some people had cooties if they didn't want to do things with that person. So when Peter says this, he's saying that he doesn't want to get near her. That's why he's not happy about Maine, because he doesn't want to be near Sheila, and he's saying she has cooties. When I didn't answer, he tugged on my sleeve. What's cooties, Pete? Since when am I Pete? I asked, shaking him off. Since today, he said. Well, I prefer Peter, if you don't mind. Pete is a better name for a big brother. And Farley is a better name for a little brother. I figured that would shut him up, since his real name is Farley Drexel Hatcher, and he's ready to kill anybody who calls him that. Don't call me Farley, he said. Then he really let go and yelled, I'm Fudge. The waiter, who heard him from across the room, came over to our table and said, Sorry, we don't have any tonight. But we do have mud pie, which is almost the same thing. Now we're matching. We're at the top of page 8 in your book. Dad had to explain that we weren't talking about dessert. And Mom added, we never eat dessert until we've finished our main course. Oh, the waiter said. But before he had a chance to get away, Fudge looked up at him and said, "Do you have cooties?" "Cooties?" the waiter asked. "For dessert?" He looked confused, especially when Tootsie banged her spoon against the tray of her baby seat and sang cootie, cootie. I could tell Fudge was about to ask the same question again, but before he had the chance, I clamped my hand over his mouth. Then Dad told the waiter we didn't need anything else right now. The waiter walked away, shaking his head, and I took my hand away from Fudge's mouth. As soon as I did, he was back in business. "What's cooties?" This time, the people at the next table looked over at us. "They're like nits," Mom told him quietly. "What's nits?" Fudge asked. "Head lice," Dad said, almost in a whisper. "Head mice?" Fudge asked. "Not mice, turkey brain," I told him. "Lice, little creepy, crawly bugs that live in your hair." I snapped my fingernails at his head the way Sheila Tubman used to do to me. Now I'm at the top of page 9 in your book. Fudge yelled, "I don't want creepy, crawly bugs in my hair." Now everyone in the restaurant looked over at us. "That's enough, Peter," Dad said. "Well, he's the one who wanted to know." "That's enough," Mom said, and it came out sounding like enough, which got Tootsie going. "E, Tootsie shrieked, licking her spoon. Oh, banging her spoon, sorry. "This is the way it's going to be all summer," I thought, only worse. So I put down my taco and said, maybe I should go to camp in August. Dad got this really serious look on his face. "We don't have the money this year, Peter. We wouldn't be going away at all if it weren't for Grandma, who's paying more than her share." "But if you want, you can bring a friend," Mom said. "A friend?" I asked. "You mean like Jimmy Fargo?" They both nodded. "Jimmy is my best friend in New York. We've always wanted to spend the summer together." "What about me?" Fudge asked. "Can I bring a friend too?" I held my breath. "You'll find a friend in Maine," Mom told him. Now it's page 10 in your book. "Suppose I don't?" Fudge asked. "You're getting married," I reminded him. "Does that mean I don't get a friend?" Fudge asked. "Of course not," Mom told him. "I'm married and I have friends. Daddy's married and he has friends." "What about Uncle Feather?" I said. Uncle Feather is Fudge's minor bird. And I'm sorry, I lost my place. He's your friend, isn't he? I'm right at the middle of the page. I can't play with Uncle Feather. "I can't play with Uncle Feather," Fudge said. "He's not that kind of friend. And I can't marry him either. If he was a girl bird, it would be different." "People don't marry birds," I told him. "Some people do." "Name one," I said. "The guy who's married to Big Bird on Sesame Street." "Big Bird's not married," I said. "That's how much you know," Fudge shouted. He's learned to say that every time someone disagrees with him. It's a real conversation stopper. "I give up," I said, going back to my taco, which was getting soggy. "Up," Tootsie repeated, holding out her arms. "Up, up, up." Dad lifted her out of the baby seat, and she squirmed until he put her down. Then she took off, toddling through the restaurant, stopping at every table. Fudge scrambled off his chair and ran after her. Eating out with my family is not exactly relaxing. I'm toward the top of page 11 in your book now. "Here, girl," Fudge said, as if he were calling a dog. "Here's something just for you." He lured her back to our table and dropped some of his taco on her tray. "Yum," he said to her. "Yum, yum, yum." Dad put Tootsie back into her seat. She stuffed the chicken pieces into her mouth. I always know what Tootsie wants, Fudge said. That's why I'm her favorite brother. Tootsie doesn't have favorites, Mom told him. She loves both her brothers. But she loves me best, Fudge said. Then he looked at me and laughed. When he did, half the food in his mouth wound up on my shirt. I called Jimmy Fargo as soon as we got home. I asked him to come to Maine with us. 3 weeks next door to Sheila Tubman? The houses are really far apart, I said. Nobody told me this, but I was hoping it was true. You won't even be able to see her house. There will probably be a forest separating us. When he didn't say anything, I added, and don't forget, Sheila's scared of dogs, so we can get Turtle after her anytime she tries to give us trouble. Now I'm at the top of page 12 in your book. Turtle is my dog. He's big enough to look scary, but he'd never hurt anybody. Lucky for us, Sheila doesn't know that. Jimmy laughed. Maybe I can come for a week. A week isn't long enough. Hey, Peter, no offense, but a week with your family can feel like a long time. That's because Jimmy's the only kid in his family. His parents are divorced. He lives with his father, Frank Fargo, who's a painter. How about 2 weeks, I said. Is your brother bringing his bird? Yeah, Uncle Feather's part of the family, I told him. Same as Turtle. So it will be your mother, your father, Fudge, Tootsie, Turtle, Uncle Feather, and you? Right, I said, and my grandmother's coming too. The one who taught you to stand on your head? Yeah, Grandma Muriel is Mom's mother. She ran a gymnastics camp before she retired. You think she could teach me? Jimmy asked. Maybe, I said. I'll talk to my father, Jimmy said. I'll let you know tomorrow. Now I'm at the top of page 13. He called back the next morning. Mr. Fargo liked the idea of Maine. He liked it so much, he said he'd drive Jimmy up and camp out in the area himself. That's great, I said. Maybe 3 weeks in Maine wouldn't be as bad as I thought. So did you find things that made you look ahead and be excited to find out what happens next? Some hints? I know I did. As you go back and reread this section, chapters 1 and 2, this time I want you to think about which character is the narrator. So stories are sometimes told by one character. That character is called the narrator, and the story is told in the narrator's point of view. So think about, who do you think the narrator of this story is, and how do you know which of the characters is telling the story? You might want to set a timer for 10 minutes, or you can rewind this video and go back to the beginning and read along with me. Happy reading. I'll see you soon.